Hello everyone, it's Tony here from Lockster Reads. This is my Remembrance Reads TBR. I have 5 different reading goals for people who want to join me in Remembrance Reads. Fundamentally, though, the only commitment I would ask of anybody for Remembrance Reads is to read one world book about World War One, whether it's a poetry anthology, a novel, a memoir, a biography, a history book, whatever, and then to take your plans from there. So number one, obviously the reason that this reading began was David Jones's In Parenthesis, which is a 7-part prose poem about fundamentally David Jones's own experiences in World War One, but it tells the story of a private John Ball, John Ball, from the time they leave South England to go to France and through to the Battle of Mehmet's Wood, and the aftermath, the immediate aftermath. It's one of my favourite pieces of literature, full stop. I think it's the best thing to come out of World War One as a literary artifact, for want of a better phrase. I would like everybody to read this, but I know it's not the easiest book to read. I'm planning to do it because it's 7 sections. I'm planning to do one a day, starting on the 1st of November. I might do a short video talking about each section. I might just do a sum up at the end. As you could see, I've read it a number of times. There are notes. The author has his own notes, and I have left little notes occasionally for myself. So this is my number one book for Remembrance Reads. In support of that, I'll be rereading Thomas Dilworth's biography of David Jones, which is called David Jones, Engraver, Soldier, Painter, Poet. And I read that a few years ago. I want to reread it, go through it with a fine-tooth comb. My eventual plan is to kind of become somebody that knows a lot about David Jones. At this point, I am a dilettante, for a better word. In support of that, I will definitely be reading Greatcoat, a self-portrait of David Jones in his letters, edited by Rene Haig. And I will probably skip reread The Dying Gaul and other writings by David Jones. I have a number of things. So I will. This one I will probably treat like I used to treat a number of books when I was writing essays for my degree, because I'm not sure I'll have time to reread it all. So that's number one. So you could put that in for the poetry section. But I also wanted to add sort of information about somebody that I didn't know much about, and I felt that the best sort of other poet to choose would be Isaac Rosenberg. Isaac Rosenberg, like David Jones, was an artist as well as a writer. He was also a Londoner, and he was Jewish, which makes him slightly unusual in the canon of, or the main canon of, World War One writers. We'll get onto some more about that later. So I've got 3 Isaac Rosenberg books. There's the collected works of Isaac Rosenberg: poetry, prose, letters, paintings and drawings, edited and introduced by Ian Parsons. There's a foreword from Siegfried Sassoon. This was originally, I think, published in 1937. The copy I've got is from 1979, and I think that's a reprint. Obviously, it's got poetry notes in it. It's got letters, The title gives it away, and it's got. I'm trying to find some nice examples of his art, and it's got some examples of his art in it. Come on, Tone, you can find them. There we go. And some examples of his artwork in it. I don't know much about Isaac Rosenberg apart from the basics, so I'm actually quite excited to read that. Connected to that, and possibly there might be some duplication here. Isaac Rosenberg, Poetry Out of My Head and Heart, Unpublished Letters, edited by Jean Liddiard. Those two, I think, effectively of as one book. And then there is Jean Liddiard's biography of Isaac Rosenberg, Isaac Rosenberg, The Half-Used Life. This was written in 1975. There may have been newer biographies of Isaac Rosenberg, but I picked these up over the years in second-hand bookshops via various other sources. So I thought, time to read those. I thought him and David Jones make a good pairing as a read. Then I thought, well, I should probably read some memoirs, and I thought I might go back to the ones. A lot of the famous ones I read a long time ago, and I need to reread. So I've put Goodbye to All That by Robert Graves, Undertones of War by Edmund Blunden, Henri Barbusse's Under Fire, which I reread a long time ago. This is the Penguin Classics version I picked up in a library sale. And then I thought I'd add Ernest Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms. I've never read any Ernest Hemingway, so this will be the first Hemingway I've ever read. I have no idea whether I like this or not. It is set in Italy, I believe. So I thought now that might be a good excuse to finally read The White War, Life and Death on the Italian Front, 1915 to 1919 by Mark Thompson. I know almost nothing about the war in Italy. It is covered in Peter Hart's The Eastern Front, I think, which is a book I might put on this list, but I might save it as an emergency for another time. So yeah, I'm actually kind of looking forward to this. I want to know whether Hemingway is as good or as bad a writer as people think he is. Then I was thinking that I needed to read stuff about things I know less about. So I picked Verdun. I know a reasonable amount about the British on the Western Front, but I know almost nothing. To mention Peter Hart again, Peter Hart's book on the Western Front is good for actually filling in a lot about the French sort of battle in the Western Front. But so I've got two books on Verdun that I've been meaning to read. One is The Price of Glory, Verdun 1916 by Alistair Horne, and the other one is Verdun, The Lost History of the Most Important Battle of World War One by John Mosier. So I'm looking forward to reading both of those. Then there's this, which I found in the library, which is Blindfold and Alone, British Military Executions in the Great War by Catherine Corns and John Hughes Wilson, which was written in 2001, I think, and is basically an attempt to tell the story of the controversy and the actuality of what happened to these people, and to take and to look at the facts behind the executions, which were controversial at the time. They're even more controversial now in 2025. But it's a story worth telling. I've read the first chapter of this, and there are some shots fired at the way that upper class officers' accounts of World War One have overtaken the general accounts of World War One. So I'm intrigued to see how this goes. And almost finally, I thought I should read a novel. I wasn't sure which one to pick, but then I remembered I had this, which is Irene Rathbone's We That Were Young. which was published in 1932 originally. This is obviously the Virago Modern Classics version. It's semi-autobiographical. So many of the novels written in the 20s and 30s by people that were involved in World War One are semi-autobiographical. And it's her experiences as a VAD nurse. So it will have echoes, I'm sure, of Vera Britton's book. But I've never read this, and it's part. I have an intent to read more of the Virago Modern Classics, although a lot of them now are out of print and can be quite expensive to get hold of. Where did I find it? I found this in a second-hand bookshop somewhere, and grabbed it immediately. And then that's finally the last thing I've got on the list is I have a collection of I have the Penguin Book of First World War Stories, edited by Anne-Marie Ironhouse and Barbara Courter. I thought a short story collection might be good to add, and you can slot those in the sort of, if you're doing a Ray Bradbury style, read one poem, read one short story, read one essay stroke article a day. It's not bad. I haven't actually counted the number of essays in it. It might be that I can do one a day. Sorry, short stories in it. It might be that I can do one a day, which would be good. So that is I think I've covered everything. Let me just look at my Excel spreadsheet. Yep, I think that's it. So there's 19 books on my TBR for Remembrance Reads. Whether I will get through all of them is moot. I'm intending to. I can do it if I plan and organise myself properly. But the story of my life is that I can plan, but actually have almost zero discipline when it comes to actually carrying those plans into reality. So if you want to join me, as I said, the minimum is to read a book connected to World War One, whether it's a novel written now, a modern novel, or a novel written more contemporaneously. Is that actually a word? I think it is. A memoir, a biography, a history book, whatever you choose to wish. A full house, as I said, would be a poem or poems, a short story or short stories, a memoir, biography, stroke autobiography, a history book. Now, the history books can be anything. They can be a general. If you don't know anything about World War One, my recommendation is to start with a sort of general history of the First World War, of which there are a lot. I would start maybe with Martin Gilbert's one. It doesn't go into a huge amount of it goes into phenomenal amounts of detail, but it doesn't go deep on specific things, but it will introduce you to pretty much everything, and then you can pick and choose if you want to go deeper on a particular subject. Afterwards you can do so. If you read about the Somme and you want to read about the Somme in more detail, there are lots of books about the Somme. As I've said before, this World War One is a war in Britain, certainly. I think it's much less important in America, and I don't know much about. At some point, I'd like to talk to some French people and German people about how World War One is perceived in both of those countries, because obviously World War Two overshadows everything in some respects, but there is for the British. It's very much it's the first war where huge numbers of British men and women left our shores and fought abroad. It's the first big conscripted army we ever sent anywhere. The British Army prior to 1916 really was always volunteer, professional, but most of what was the professional army in 1914 had been wounded, injured, or weeded out by 1915. Then it was territorial battalions, and then it was volunteers, and then it was conscription. So in that respect, it's the first. That's the first shock. The second thing is every town, every village, every family, or almost every family, has somebody that fought in World War One. And a lot of people have relatives that died in World War One. Two, my great grandfathers, two of them, one of them died shortly after World War One as a result of a consequence of the effects of gas that he caught in World War One. And I think the same thing happened. There's two of my great grandfathers that happened to. I've always wanted to look into it in more detail. Perhaps one day I will, and maybe that'll be something for a remembrance read down the line. My grandfathers both obviously fought in World War Two. So there's that, but also it's a war of literature. It is a war of poems and poetry, of writers and writing, of memoirs, and of. It's not so much. I think World War Two is more a war of film. World War One is more a war of books. I think I said that in the introductory video. So anyway, before I waffle on for another 58 days, that's my TBR for Remembrance Reads 2025. If you want to join me, you are more than welcome. If you want to read the same books as me, you're more than welcome. Some of those, the Ice of Rosenberg ones, I think are probably quite hard to get hold of because they're pretty much, I suspect, all out of print. But the other stuff, most of the memoirs, most of the other things are available in print. I'd be very surprised if, like, Robert Graves ever goes out of print. Or Hemingway. Well, Hemingway might, he might go out of fashion. But anyway, that's again, I'm waffling on. So there. Welcome to join me. Please comment, like, subscribe. I'm going to put my Ko-Fi or coffee. I don't even know if it's Ko-Fi or coffee. Account in here. So if you want to buy me a cup of coffee, I've said, and I'll stick to it. But I think it would be more used for chocolate and beer than coffee. I am an Englishman of a certain age, and therefore tea, chocolate, and beer are more my bag than coffee. Look forward to my Remembrance Reads month. I will do regular videos. I've been very irregular. I keep saying I'm going to do more regular videos, and I keep not doing it. I'm talking again. Right, stop. I'm going to end it here. As I said, like, subscribe, comment, and I'll speak to you all in November.